As we get into our next topic here, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, guys, on YouTube. Share the video, like the video, hit the notification button. Support us. We're here, and we're going to talk about why are many Americans single?
Yeah, so you want to start us off with some stats around like marriage and how many people are single in the U.S. at the moment?
Absolutely. So according to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly 47% of the U.S. population, which is over 117 million people, are currently single. The average age of people getting married has increased. So we're looking at men of 30 years old and women at 28 years old. It's crazy how bad it's gotten.
Yeah, basically what's happening, like you just said, people are getting married later. More and more people are deciding to hold off on marriage, which is a key part of being in a relationship to begin with. And more people are single. What was the percentage of single people you said?
117 million, more than 117.
117 million people. So
it's a lot.
There's a couple things that immediately come to mind, and obviously we'll talk about both the male and female side, but what happened over the past 10 years, right? Females have taken this like Miss Independent route. They don't want to rely on men. They're making their own money. They're taking their own careers. So what contributed to that? Well, the most obvious thing that comes to mind is feminism. That whole movement is what gave women this idea to begin with, right? You don't need no man. Men are trash. Make your own money. Become educated. Women have become completely liberated in every way, shape, or form.
Big time.
So that's number one. Number two, and this isn't all women, obviously, you have things like OnlyFans, right? Some women are taking that route. They're exploiting themselves sexually. They're making millions off of it. So that's another route. There's 2.1 million OnlyFans creators at the moment. It's not a huge number if you look at the whole population, but that's still 2.1 million, mostly females that are doing this, right? So let's get more into like some other reasons, like why both men and women are single. But I just wanted to start with that because I think men really haven't changed all that much over the years. There haven't been any male movements. There hasn't been anything that shifted in the male side that made us stray away from women. I don't think really the male side changed that much. I think what did change is just it's become more difficult on the male side to find somebody to date. Women's standards have changed. A lot of women are taking the independent route. So that's more on the male side. So let's get more into that.
Let's go on to the male side. And men find it more difficult to meet people. How can men break that difficulty? How can they go off and start meeting people, make it easier for them to meet women?
The traditional way was to go out and to cold approach, right? And it's funny we're even talking about this because I just sat down and had a one-on-one conversation with a woman. And I asked her, I was like, what are you seeing out there? Are guys cold approaching women? And what she said to me, she goes, it's funny you're asking because they aren't. So, and this is coming straight from a woman that's, in her like mid-late 20s. She's saying that men do not cold approach anymore. So that's kind of changed because now what most people do, and this is a part of hookup culture as well, which also plays into this. Both men and women kind of jump to dating apps, right? So what happens? You're laying in bed. It's the easy, lazy thing to do. You swipe through, see who you connect with. Sometimes you're doing it just out of boredom or, entertainment. Some women will do it just for validation, just to get attention from guys. So people are using that more to meet people. But the problem with it is that there's an endless amount of options. So when there's an endless amount of options, you don't really take it that seriously. Right.
That for women, on the women's side, there's an endless amount of options. So
right.
Would you say that women are not choosing to date? They're doing it by choice? Because think about it. The opportunity on the women's side is big. You have men approaching women in public, out in the nightlife scene, at work, in the supermarket, wherever they can. And then you add on the technological side of it where men are reaching out via social media, via Tinder, via Bumble, any way possible, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, to be able to get that opportunity with a woman. Do women make that choice not to date?
It's gotten very difficult for guys. Why? Because now, like we just said, if you're going to realistically, hit up a woman, you're going to do it through what? You're going to do it through a DM, or you're going to message her on Tinder or Bumble or something. And women have like raised the bar to the point where most guys can't really compete with it. Like they're expecting high 6-figure earners, they're expecting lifestyle, they're expecting to spend money on them, then throw in the rest of it, being tall, good looking, all that stuff. So a majority of guys are just kind of like, they've tried, they failed, and they're just kind of like, you know what, I'm not really even going to bother in this. So I think that's an important part of it too. I think some guys just may have already gotten to the point where they're like, you know what, we're just not even going to bother with this. That whole movement, by the way, is called MGTOW, men going their own way. Some men just said, screw it, I'm not even going to pursue this anymore, because women have raised the bar to a point where it's not realistic for most guys. And it's like the competition for guys is you're competing with other guys that make more money than you, that are taller, that are better looking. Women now have an endless supply of this. That's the key thing in all of this. They have an endless supply because they could just sit there and the DMs flood in, day out, assuming she's good looking, right? So, but even average women, same thing. It's really not that much different.
So you're saying here that the opportunities are endless for women because they get hit on. However, due to their high standards and expectations, they make it more difficult for themselves to get approached, to have a well-rounded relationship with someone.
Yeah, I think it hits both sides, because think about it, right? If you put yourself in a modern woman's shoes, right, and you're always getting attention and DMs, you now have more options than you ever had before, right? Women nowadays don't have the same amount of options that women did 20, 30 years ago. Now it's like 100 times the amount, right? So now you're going to be a little bit more selective, because now you have an endless amount of, why would you just quote unquote settle? Women hate settling, right? You hear that all the time. Like, I'm not settling. I know my worth. So
Stop the cap.
I could see why they're tempted to kind of like try to see what's the best option, and they're going to kind of monkey branch from this guy to that guy. And like, yeah, at a certain age, they're going to eventually have to settle for something. But that's why I think you're seeing more and more people get married later, because, and this is common on both men and women's side. I think people nowadays in general are like so scared of like settling. Like they're so worried that they're going to end up with not their best option, because I think there's that illusion that it's like there's so much out there that you have that like fear of missing out.
Well, that's the thing. With all the options out there, this raises this question. Women don't take accountability where they should. They put it on the men. Are men to blame for women not having viable options, someone reliable, someone they can depend on to be that partner?
I think that, and this is especially true for women that are going to get into their mid-30s, and I know women hate hearing this. There's going to come a point in time where you have to be realistic. If you're good looking, you're in your early 20s, I could see why you're going to be uppity and think, you deserve the best of everything. But when you start to get into your mid-30s, and women hate hearing this, that whole hitting the wall idea, you have to be realistic. I'm not saying you should have low standards and not choose the right person, but like, some women are like pushing 40 and they're not lowering their bar. They're saying to themselves, like, I know my worth. I'm staying single until I get what I want, or I'm just going to stay single. And which brings me to another point. I think now what's also changed is that both men and women have kind of learned to live without each other. We live two different types of lives. Women are making their own money. They have their own jobs. They're traveling and doing their thing, and men are doing their own thing. They have their jobs, their hobbies, their friends, the gym, what have you. And I think women, which is kind of scary if you think about it, men and women have learned to kind of live separate lives, and mix that in with hookup culture, where people just don't take it seriously anymore. Nobody's really looking for long-term commitment anymore. That's where we are nowadays.
I can jump on that and say that you're right. Both men and women are drifting apart. They're going in their own way. They each have their own priorities that they're focusing right now on. And those priorities don't include dating. They include, for men, getting better, making more money, getting better in the gym, getting some status, any type of status that they can get, being more confident, being more assertive, being more of a leader, shaping themselves into the type of guy that they want to present themselves to be. And the fact that they're getting rejected by women are not giving them the opportunity to date them, they're going off and improving themselves, and who can blame them? If it's me, and we've all been that before, if it's me years ago, I had issues with some girls and didn't work out. What did I do? I went my own way and I worked on myself. I got in the gym. I hustled for extra money and improved and worked hard. And I was relentless. And I kept pushing to improve my overall man and putting myself out there to be a better man. To be that guy that, okay, she sees me and now she's impressed. Of course, we're not just trying to get better to impress women. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we get better to improve our lives and make ourselves better men, and then the women are a byproduct of that. They come as a result of that. But you're making your life better as a man and to live the life you want to live. To be able to say, you know what, screw you, I don't need you. I could do my own thing.
100%.
Okay.
I think the way things are with dating nowadays, as a man, you don't have any choice but to just continue to improve and make more money, get into shape, and like it's really a good move to study like game a little bit. There's plenty of channels, books on it, podcasts where you could study this stuff, because I think female psychology, I think that's a big disconnect between men and women, and that's why this is such a common topic nowadays. It's like, you know, like they always say, men tend to be more logical, women tend to be a little bit more on the emotional side, and the way we make decisions and the way we're attracted to each other is so different. What we're looking for is different. So I think it's worth it to study game a little bit to kind of understand the female psychology a little bit, because not that that's going to make it easy all of a sudden, but it helps you kind of link the two together.
Exactly. I mean, there's a disconnect between being
without a doubt
logical and emotional. They don't mesh. So
what makes sense to us doesn't necessarily make sense to them, because the way we view it, like the way we view the world, is not the way they do. So, you know, if you're dating a girl, like that's why a lot of times what she does and how she acts, and it may not make sense to you because the way you see it is not going to be the way she sees it. It's two different. It's coming from two different places. Men tend to act more logically, and women, it's just an emotional reaction. They need to feel something. They go based on how they feel. You know, that's how they make their decisions in relationships. So
exactly, and many women don't feel like committing. I mean, think about it. You have guys hitting you up from all over the place. One guy's offering to take you out to a 5-star restaurant. Another guy's offering to take you out on a yacht. Another guy's offering to take you out to a Broadway play. Another guy's offering to fly you out to there's
a lot of temptation for women. There's a lot of temptation out there with all that stuff that they have access to now. I'm not surprised that they don't want to quote unquote settle, because they want to experience all of it. And what else is out there? And maybe there's something better, and maybe a guy with more money. And like, you know, we've said countless times, but that is all going to come to an end sooner or later. And that's why I said before is that I get it. You're 22 years old, you know, go crazy. But the women that are pushing like 40 years old, what are you still doing? Well, you think that like some rich guy is going to scoop you up and throw you on a yacht and you're going to live a high-end lifestyle? It's game over by then.
That's the thing. I see these ladies in their 30s, mid-30s, hitting 40 or over 40, having those high expectations. What do you expect?
And you know, I'll even go as far as saying that I think what's happening now is that there's women that are pushing 40 that could just care less about the fact that they're pushing 40, because they might say to themselves, you know what? Screw marriage. Just like a lot of guys are saying screw marriage, I think a lot of women are starting to take that route too and saying, you know what? Screw it. I'm making my own money. I'm independent. Why do I need a man for it, right? Why do I need to complicate my life with kids and family and everything like that? So that's why the culture, like at least in the U.S. with dating, it's completely messed up, and it doesn't surprise me at all that so many people are single. So
yeah, and they're happy being single. Flat out, they feel. I say on the guy's side, men are at peace when they're single. They don't have to deal with the BS. You go through the ups and downs, and you have to put out all your resources, your money, your time, your energy to go where? To go nowhere. Guys want a relationship to go somewhere. That's why they try to get a relationship to work. But if they see
that's the most common complaint from the guy side is a lack of reciprocation. I think guys are done with, and they're fed up with like, okay, all the expectations are on our side. We're going to pay and make all the effort and jump through hoops to get crumbs or get nothing out of it. It gets old really quick. You can only do that 1, 2, 3 times, and you're just like, yeah, this is a waste. You start to see it for what it really is, and that's where we are nowadays. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
You have to be really selective, like careful with who you invest money and time into, because these women nowadays will take you for a ride.
Big time. Big time. They'll take you for a ride in a relationship, and even worse, in a marriage, which we've talked about before many times. Don't get married, because you will lose all your money, your house, your cars, and probably
It's a massive
your
gamble.
life.
It's a massive gamble. I hate to say it, but it's, if you asked me this question 20 years ago, like, do you think you'll get married and stuff, I maybe would have had a different answer. But like, knowing what I know now and seeing what I've seen, it's a total gamble. All the laws are not in our favor. Everything is against us. We get the penalty when she decides to leave or cheat or what have you, and what,
Yeah, and you sacrifice your life as a man, and you pretty much lose all of that. That's why I was just saying you pretty much lose your life because of a woman that screws you over.
Yeah.
That's why when women are out there saying, well, where's my guy? Where's my king? Where's my other half? Well, you might have had an opportunity at your other half, but you pushed him aside to go after the guy that was giving you trips, giving you dinners, giving you vacation. Well, you said trips. A bunch of other things that I haven't named. Purses, jewelry, whatever it is.
I think years ago, why there were more successful relationships and why marriages lasted is because what used to happen is people used to just date and marry within their own tax bracket. That's just how it was. So both people were used to that same lifestyle, that same, salary, home value, whatever you want to call it. And it was pretty equal, right? Nowadays, it's women want like the best of everything, right? High salary, lifestyle. They want everything. And guys are kind of like on the bottom, like trying to work their way up to get to that point where they can start to compete with other guys, so. And obviously as a guy, you also have the other route where you could just say, okay, screw all that, and I'll just date you could settle and date some overweight woman or a woman you're not attracted to and just do it to have a relationship. But who's interested in doing that?
Yeah, and I would say guys are settling less and less nowadays.
Yeah.
And they're getting their passports and going overseas, and they're becoming passport bros.
No, 100%, because as the dating culture becomes more and more screwed up in the U.S., you still need to, sexual experience, relationship experience. Some people are looking to get married and have kids. You're going to look for it elsewhere. I think in the U.S., it's really getting worse and worse, and I think it's probably, sadly to say, only going to get worse from here. So
to wrap this up and put a bow on it, what can men do and what can women do to increase their odds at getting the relationship that they want and having the future that they want with the significant other that they're looking for? What do they have to do to accomplish that?
For guys, I think it's a combination of making as much money as you can, getting in the gym. One that's also crucial is working on your social skills, because if you're not a social person, you won't meet people and you won't be good in a social environment, and that's going to make it tough to meet anyone.
Gotta have game.
I think changing up your social circle is important. I think you have to, I'm not saying go out every weekend, but you should have some sort of a social circle, whether you go out every couple weekends or you do some sort of group activities with other people. You got to meet people somehow. But I think in order to compete nowadays, you have to be like in your top of your game, really.
Men out there, you're competing with the best of the best. So you have to, as Rob mentioned, you have to get in the gym. You have to make as much money as you can. You have to build up your status some way, somehow, whichever way that comes about. You have to be more assertive. You have to have game. You're competing with the best of the best out there. You're competing with the guys that are flying these women out and taking them on lavish trips and buying them the purses and taking them to events and taking them to these dinners. And buying them bottle service. I didn't even mention that before. I've mentioned it in other podcasts, but not this one. Those are things that you're competing with, and being the regular guy just won't cut it anymore.
The more attractive the woman is, the more access she has to all that stuff you just listed. So that's just how it is nowadays. If she's attractive, if she's like a 7, 8, 9, she has access to all that stuff. and she's not going to settle for less because why, right? She has all access to that. Why is she going to settle for a guy that can't even afford to take her out to a dinner or like buy her the gifts she wants? So that's how it is. And that's why women don't want to quote unquote settle, because they have access to that. And that's why guys are left kind of like, is it possible to end up in a relationship as an average guy and get married and have kids? Absolutely. But it's not going to be the woman you want. It's not going to be the relationship you want. And you're going to be unhappy anyway. So I think it's pointless. But that's another route you could take. You could just say, you know, screw improving. I know plenty of people that are in relationships that are not high value or make a lot of money, but it's not going to be an attractive woman for one, and you're not going to have a happy relationship. It's just going to be a relationship just to be in it, you know,
without a doubt. And then on the women's side, how can they increase the chances to get into a relationship that's fulfilling for them?
Well, I think women, first of all, need to first ask themselves, what is it that they really want? Because when I listen to women speak on social media, on YouTube and TikTok, they're very like vague, like, oh, well, I'm healing and I know my worth and I'm just trying to manifest. And like, they're like, it's like, you have to, what is it that you even want? Because if you want marriage and kids, you have to approach it one way. If you're just looking for lavish lifestyles and to sleep around with rich guys, that's a whole other strategy. So I think women first need to ask themselves, like, what is it that you even want? Because if you don't know, then you're not going to get it. And I think that's how it is now. Women are just kind of like floating around like, you know, let me see how many more years I could get away with this. And hopefully some guy with money will, you know, will scoop me up and my life will be easy peasy from that point on. But women need to also, like, and I'm talking specifically to the women that are like, again, 35 and up. Ask yourself, like, what are you looking to do? Like, are you being realistic with who you're chasing after? Because again, just like men have to compete with men that make more money, older women have to compete with the younger women, more sexually appealing women. So there's challenges on both the male and female side. It's just, I think people are very confused and misguided nowadays, and they don't know what they want. They don't want to settle. So that's how it is.
Big time. Women have to compete with the 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds. They have to compete with those ladies that are in their 20s, 20, 21, and on, you know, up to around 25, 26. And that's tough because the guy that those 35, 40-year-old, 45-year-old women want aren't going to want them anymore. That's just the sad reality.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So you'll have to lower your standards a little bit in order to get that relationship that you want. If you don't lower your standards, though, hey, you don't have to. It's on you. You're going to not get the relationship that you want.
And that's the problem, is that people hate the idea of settling. Everybody settles. Like, talk to any married couple. Like, there's always, you're always going to have to settle for something. Like, you're never going to meet somebody that, like, checks all the boxes. Like this is a movie or something like that. Maybe she'll find a guy that makes money, but he's going to be a little bit on the uglier side. Or maybe you have a good-looking guy that's in shape, but he doesn't make $250K a year. Maybe he makes $70K a year. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I said is, like, women, I think, need to ask themselves, what is it that they really want? Because they can't all end up with successful rich guys. You know what I'm saying? They can't all, like, maybe some of them will, but they can't all end up with these successful men. You know, it's not realistic.
So can we both agree that women should be more open-minded when it comes to being open to certain relationships, certain opportunities?
100%. And I think the funny thing is, I think more and more women would be surprised to find out that they would be happier just in a steady relationship with probably a more normal guy than chasing after God knows what, you know. I think a lot of women will find this out the hard way, is that, you know, think about it, right? If you were like a ultra rich, like millionaire type of guy, you're not going to take these women seriously anyway. So, you know, I get that they want the lifestyle and the trips and stuff out of it, but like, people like those guys aren't going to take you seriously anyway. It's just going to be a temporary flavor of the week or that moment type of thing. So I don't know. I guess that's something for them to think about.
Yeah, ladies, this is the cold, hard truth. When you're dealing with a man of that caliber, that status, being rich, and you're, you know, hitting 30s, 35, 40, he's may have a good time. It may be a fun time between the two of you, but that's about it. I don't see it going further than that. So you have to realize that men are the prize. It's just what it is. And men are the ones that will put a ring on your finger. Men are the ones that will give you the relationship. Of course, you guys are the ones, you ladies are the ones that have to be open to giving sex. So women give sex, men give relationships and marriage. So, if you're open to that guy and his needs, then he's going to give you what you want. So it can't be, you get your cake and eat it too type of deal. It has to be, it's a two-way street. It has to work for both.
This will actually be a good topic for another episode, but I notice women will sleep with guys that just don't care about them and then complain about it afterwards. That's how it tends to go. And then
gotcha, bitch.
Next thing you know, you're 38 and you're like, so
then it's
I guess we'll slowly start to wrap this up, but I think this was a really great topic. More and more people are single nowadays. Dating is a struggle on both the male and female side. I think everybody will agree with us on that. So
yeah, and to conclude on my end, ladies, I would just say be open. Be open-minded, because you never know what opportunity comes to you. And if you let it go, let it slip your fingers, it's gone and it might never come back. So take advantage of the opportunities. Be open-minded to a man that is willing to take you out. Keep someone that's keeping it real with you. Take you out for a dinner or wants to take you out for an event, something not too extravagant. And then see where it goes from there. You may like the guy. You may even fall in love with the guy. I've heard all these stories about.
And I know people that met on like Tinder and things like. I was at a wedding where these people met on Tinder, and that's extremely common. There's nothing wrong with using dating apps. I think that's just a new modern way to do it, and it is what it is. But I think just the culture behind dating is where it's screwed up. It's not really necessarily the methods we use to meet people. I think it's just the culture is screwed up. So people don't take it seriously. Nobody wants to settle. People don't know what they want, and we're just like, Yeah.
So. And men are giving up on you women out there. So men, keep doing your thing. And if someone comes around that is worth it, maybe see where it goes. Take them out. Go for a dinner. And you got to have some game. Talk to them, see where you go from there, make them laugh, and see how it works out. But if she makes you struggle for the relationship, she kind of hangs it over your head, kind of like a dollar bill, trying to get you to jump at it, and she gives you a hard time, then forget it. Focus on yourself. If someone else comes along, go for it. But if it doesn't work out with that next person, you have to keep switching it up. Some people aren't meant to be together, but again, ladies, guys are struggling less and less. They're not going to go through it. They're not going to tolerate it as much. So just keep that in mind when you're putting a guy through it for no reason.